It looks like corporate media is attacking YouTube yet again. So you might remember the first attack when the corporate media lied about the prevalence of adverts being shown on extremist content in early 2017.
Oh, yes.
And it led to the mass advertiser boycotts and withdrawals, damaging the income of many people who were completely uninvolved in this extremist content, because all the advertisers pulled out of YouTube because it had been imbued with the filth that was some extremism that seemed to have slipped through the cracks. Whether this was really prevalent, of course, is very questionable. And I would argue that there's an obvious agenda behind the corporate press reporting on this, because it is damaging their competition. They saw their profit margins, slowly going down over time as people migrated to alternative media, and they wanted a piece of that money yet again. And of course, we are going to see this happen all the more. Here is round two. So,
Surprise, surprise.
Here is a Guardian article titled "YouTube is the major conduit of fake news, fact checkers say." And you can find the same story mysteriously circulating on pretty much any major news outlet. It's ridiculous. So, funnily enough, they've all picked this up. It's almost like they have a financial incentive to do so, isn't it?
It does seem to be the case, doesn't it?
The article says, YouTube is a major conduit of online disinformation and misinformation worldwide, and it's not doing enough to tackle the spread of falsehoods on its platform, according to a global coalition of fact-checking organisations. Great.
Any mention about plurality of information at all?
They just want to have all the power. They want to be able to set the narrative, don't they? They want to be like, yes, we have the facts. We know what's true.
They want the old regime back, the days where there was just legacy media.
Oh, they are really the worst kinds of human beings imaginable, aren't they? So it goes on to say, a letter signed by more than 80 groups, including Full Facts in the UK and the Washington Post Fact Checker, says the video platform is hosting content by groups including Doctors for the Truth, which spreads COVID misinformation and videos supporting the fraud narrative during the US presidential election. But, why do these fact checkers care? I mean, why does it matter to them what people think about COVID? Why does it matter to them what they think about US elections? I think exposing the lies of the establishment is really what is going on here, to be honest. They're being exposed as lying for their own gain to help their politician mates, who, of course, have a symbiotic relationship with the media and them. They're all in each other's pockets, of course. I think we've known this for a very long time. It's not really a surprise. It's just a naked power grab. And of course, as you alluded to, plurality of opinion in journalism is good, and healthy competition is also very good, because of course you're applying market principles to a thing in which competition breeds higher quality things for cheaper costs. This is good for the consumer, but apparently the media knows better than the market forces which have dictated all of the wealth we have around us today.
But it's not the markets, is it? It's Russia dictating.
Oh, apparently so, yeah. Well, I kind of feel like these fact checkers, have you seen the film They Live before?
I haven't.
Well, basically, not to spoil it too much, it's not a full spoiler, it's like the first half an hour. Basically, there are humans who are living on kind of a rundown planet, and then it comes out that there are these aliens living in amongst people, and then there are humans that side with the aliens for wealth and power. And it seems like that's kind of what the journalists are doing. They're siding with these people who are just out to hurt the common man for a little bit of wealth and power. That's how I see it.
Gone are the days of Watergate.
Yeah, well, there's a very good contemplations coming out on the website, by the way,
God,
talking about how the corporate media is terrible and why that is. So it goes on to say, YouTube is allowing its platform to be weaponized by unscrupulous actors to manipulate and exploit others, and to organize and fundraise themselves. That sounds like us, doesn't it? Oh.
Right, so YouTube's co-opting with the far right now, is it?
Yeah. We're daring to give them an alternative narrative.
We never have to watch what we say, do we?
No,
No.
It's not like YouTube tells us what we can and can't say. That never happens whatsoever.
No.
And Susan Wojcicki, YouTube's executive director, describes YouTube as a major conduit for falsehoods, which is her own company. Great one. So the letter urges YouTube, which is owned by Google, to make 4 changes to its operations: a commitment to funding independent research into disinformation campaigns on the platform, providing links to rebuttals inside videos distributing misinformation and disinformation, don't know what the difference is, stopping its algorithm from promoting repeat offenders, and doing more to tackle falsehoods in non-English language videos.
Right, so they're going to be starting with hope, not hate then, right?
Imagine someone like that. Ugh. But they say, we hope you will consider implementing these ideas for public good and to make YouTube a platform that truly does its best to prevent disinformation and misinformation being weaponized against its users and society at large. What that really means is they don't want you to make up your own mind. The media tells you what to think, rather than, of course, you see the mainstream media approach, you see the alternative media approach, and you decide for yourself. I mean, we don't exactly tell you, yes, we are the ultimate disseminators of all facts and knowledge like the mainstream media does. We at least say this is our opinion and are a bit upfront about it, whereas they're trying to posture themselves as, yes, we know the truth. We are the only arbiters of truth.
The use of weaponize it is particularly revealing, isn't it? Because what like weaponizing for what? What against you, so that we can actually expose how crap you've been as I don't know, I don't know, an advocate for truth for years.
We've got to stop you harming yourself by watching dangerous videos on YouTube. Doesn't that sound great? Aren't you glad that these journalists just care so much about you? So obviously, I've picked out just the Guardian, and I'll move on to CNN in a second. But there are many, many outlets and many, many examples of how the mainstream media lies all of the time. In fact, most of the things they say, I would dare to say, are lies in some shape or another. I mean, it's very rare where I see something, I'm just like, yes, that's actually true. So here is an article from The Intercept by Glenn Greenwald talking about how the Guardian's summary of Julian Assange's interview, and it went viral and was completely false. So obviously I think that Julian Assange should not be extradited. I feel like he's done nothing wrong in exposing crimes of governments and the Clinton campaign. So I'm going to read some of the extracts from this article, but not all of it. So he says that he's talking about a specific article from 2016. This article instead is about a report published this week by The Guardian that recklessly attributed to Assange's comments that he did not make. The article is about how those false claims, fabrications really, were spread all over the internet by journalists, causing hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, to consume false news. The purpose of this article is to underscore yet again that those who most flamboyantly denounce fake news and want Facebook and other tech giants to suppress content in the name of combating it are often the most aggressive and self-serving perpetrators of it. Well said. Shoddy and misleading Guardian article written by Ben Jacobs was published on December 24th. This was 2016. And it made 2 primary claims, both of which are demonstrably false. The first false claim was hyped in the article's headline: Julian Assange gives guarded praise of Trump and blasts Clinton in interview. This claim was repeated in the first paragraph of the article. And the second claim was an even worse assault on basic journalism. Jacobs set up this claim by asserting that Assange had long, close ties with the Putin regime, and the only evidence offered was this extraordinary claim that Assange in 2012 conducted 8 interviews that were broadcast on Russia Today. With the claim Assange-Putin alliance implanted, Jacobs then wrote in his interview with La Repubblica, Assange said there was no need for WikiLeaks to undertake a whistleblowing role in Russia because of the open and competitive debate he claimed existed there. And as you can probably imagine, they are putting words in his mouth. So the reason the 2 claims are so significant, so certain to attract massive numbers of clicks and shares, is obvious. They play directly into the biases of Clinton supporters and flatter their central narrative about the election, that Clinton lost because the Kremlin used its agents, such as Assange, to boost Trump and sink Clinton. By design, the article makes it seem as though Assange is heralding Russia as free, vibrant and transparent political culture that, in contrast to the repressive West, no whistleblowing is needed, all while praising Trump. So yes, this is right. But none of that actually happened. Those claims are made up, he goes on to say. Despite how much online attention it received, Jacobs' Guardian article contained no original reporting. Indeed, it did nothing but purport to summarise the work of an actually diligent journalist, Stefania Maruzzi, of Italian daily Repubblica, La Repubblica, who travelled to London and conducted an interview with Assange. Her interview was conducted in English, and the transcript was published online, and the work consisted of nothing more than rewriting parts of that interview he wanted to highlight so that The Guardian could receive the traffic for her work. Ever since the Guardian article was published and went viral, Maruzzi has repeatedly objected to false claims being made about what Assange said in her interview, but while Western journalists keep retweeting and sharing The Guardian's secondhand summary of the interview, they completely ignore Maruzzi's protests for reasons that are both noxious and revealing. So, yes.
They've never really been held to account for this, have they?
No. Well, this is just one of many, many examples. So if we move on to CNN, they, of course, covered this as well, because of course they would. They have a clear agenda here, and they also recently did a fact check. So I thought...
Oh, brilliant. It's a CNN fact check.
I thought, I would
Always
fact
exciting.
check the fact checkers. Why not? So they're talking about the January 6th Capitol stuff, and I did a ton of work on this. So they have this article titled Fact Check, 5 Enduring Lies About the Capitol Insurrection. First one of which is, it says, lie, the rioters were completely unarmed. And the argument is that if it was a true insurrection, as they seem to love using that word, people would probably turn up with guns. It's not necessarily known that Trump supporters, you know, they scorn guns. I think they're pretty vocal about their support for firearms, aren't they? Yet, mysteriously, there weren't any used in getting into the building, and they use the fact that some people were arrested for having handguns in their possession, but not actually using them. For example, one of the cases is someone just dropped their gun on the floor.
Yeah.
And the only person who actually ended up getting shot at was one of Trump supporters herself, which was Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by one of the people in the Capitol, a suited man. I don't know whether he was intelligence agency, who he was, but he got off scot-free. So is that justice? I don't think so.
No.
Another so-called lie is that the rioters were merely protesting a rigged election. Obviously can't say what I really think about this glorious Biden victory on YouTube, but it's... that's definitely my opinion, YouTube. Yes, I definitely agree with that. That's very true.
Undisputably the best president ever.
Yes. It's also interesting that in this debunking, they use the word riot, but in other cases, they use insurrection. So which one is it, CNN? If you're out to set out the facts, was it an insurrection? Was it a riot? Well, it's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, they say that it's a lie that the rioters were invited into the Capitol by police, which... in the front entrance, they were. However, in the rear entrance, they were not. They held out for the entire time. I can prove this with actual first-hand accounts, because on our website, on some links that I'll get onto soon, this is my article, which I published recently, after a year after the events of January 6th, where I titled it, America, Do Not Forgive, Do Not Forget. And I talk about how the Democrats and the mainstream media have echoed this false narrative about it being a deliberate coup, and I've linked all of the work that we have done. This, for example, is I communicated with a photographer that was on the ground and took pictures of both January 5th and the 6th, because it was a 2-day event, and he has pictures of the rear entrance where, for example, Officer Sicknick was the person who died, who actually turned out to have a stroke. But, for example, Biden and many of the news media said that he was hit on the head by a fire extinguisher and things like that and died. But it's not true. He had a stroke the next day. But anyway, let's not forget as well, CNN, the purveyors of truth, and all hail their benevolence, the fiery but mostly peaceful protest, and how they tried to spin the Black Lives Matter riots in the summer of 2020. So... It's ridiculous, isn't it? I'm sure everyone's seen this by now, but yeah, they're not dedicated to factual journalism.
There's so many pictures in this one image. I do not know where to start.
Yeah, so fiery but mostly peaceful protests after police shooting while stood in front of burning vehicles. Yeah. Great. So the final thing I wanted to end on was this article by the Financial Times called "Psyops Are a Crucial Weapon in the War Against Disinformation." Well, mask off moment for the Financial Times. So it goes on to say, when Sweden's Navy tried to hunt down a suspected enemy submarine in the Stockholm archipelago 8 years ago, its efforts were ridiculed by the Russian media and officials who trolled their armed forces and accused him of pursuing a phantom vessel. Since then, hostile states, including Russia, I didn't realise Russia was a hostile state, China and Iran have increased their use of disinformation and online propaganda to amplify anti-vax sentiments and foment political tensions in Europe and the US. That sounds rather conspiratorial to me, doesn't it? Do you have any evidence to back up this assertion?
Yeah, if anything, I'm pretty sure it's Europe that's amplifying the anti-vax sentiment. Like, what?
It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
What are you smoking, FT?
They're using PSYOPs in their article about PSYOPs, it seems. Concerned about the potential for this to undermine democracy, Sweden has just launched an agency for psychological defence. I don't know what that really means. Other countries would do well to follow its example. Great.
No, do not follow Sweden.
No, don't listen to the Swedes, whatever you do. Mikhail Tofferson.
I'm not going to try and pronounce that.
I'm not going to pronounce that right, but never mind. You're not exactly a nice person. Head of the new agency's operation division says aggressors are increasingly trying to sow division by targeting areas of public concern such as crime, COVID vaccinations, the government's response to the pandemic, and immigration. These are low-intensity campaigns that are consistently in operation when a specific issue is in the news and activity increases. These sound like crime, COVID, government's response, immigration. These kind of there's a running thread. They're not left-wing causes, isn't it? It's almost like they're trying to paint right-wing causes as being linked to foreign powers. Where have we seen that before? Oh yeah, Russiagate, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's it.
And that was proven to be false, made up by the Clinton campaign. So why should we believe this? Of course, the media echoed the Russiagate stuff to no end for a full 4 years throughout Trump's presidency. They are liars. Do not listen to them. I mean, listen to what I have to say with skepticism. I'm only voicing my opinions, but I don't set myself up to be an arbiter of facts like they do. Make up your own mind. Do not listen to the media. They are out to rip you off, to oppress you and make your life worse. Don't fall into the trap that they are your friends.
Hear, hear.
If you want to see more from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to enjoy all of the premium content we have on the site, such as this free article by Josh reflecting on an important topic which is too spicy to discuss on YouTube. You can get access to all of our premium content with a bronze tier membership for just £5 a month. If you'd like to stay up to date with all of the content we're putting out on the site, you can follow Lotus Eaters on Getter at getter.com. You can also follow our individual writers and presenters, such as Josh here. Thank you, and goodbye.